Hello everybody, welcome to my first YouTube video ever on my new channel, which intends to focus on fundamental value investing. The basic principle is that in each video will select 5 different companies within an industry and benchmark them across various numbers, ratios and KPIs. Today's video is more like a first test video where I will go through and explain the background behind the sheet that I've created. I'm still waiting for a little bit of new gear like a microphone, which I expect will enhance the user experience. So please bear over with me. Maybe I should have waited a bit, but I was kind of like a little bit excited to get started. The video will therefore not go into details on the number on the first 5 companies that I've selected, as you can see here, within the solar industry. But otherwise, how the sheet is built is first to have some generic information like the stock name, the current share price, the currency, the industry, and the market cap of the stock. This will be followed by a section around stock performance, which will show what is the most recent change in the share price, how was the 52-week low and high, and what are the current price as a percentage of the 52-week high. Lastly, we have some I want to illustrate how the stock has developed since over a week, month, quarter, etc. up to a full year. Okay. The next section focuses on the income statement part, and more specifically I want to see if the companies are profitable or not, and also see how the margins stack up against the industry. It is important to note that the color coding part that you see here is based on how well the companies perform compared to their respective industry. You can be a profitable company but still underperform the general industry. So if you look out on the benchmark info, you will see specifically for each number, ratio or KPI what the companies are benchmarked against. That can be the industry, it can be general principles of the ratio, or it can be the S&P 500 average. On the income statement part, I obviously have the usual suspects, but besides that, I have added the Beanish M-score, which is a model that shows whether a company potentially is manipulating its earnings, and also the Sloan ratio, which can detect if there's happening any unusual business with the accruals of the company. The little bit lighter color that you see here is to highlight the areas that I think is most important in fundamental investment, and therefore you will see in the coming sections all the ones that are marked like this. That is because they are important to me. The following sections, which is tied in obviously to the income statement, is the return metrics. This is again another but extremely important section, as it shows how well the companies are performing on, again, some of the most important aspects. So you will notice on a lot of these, like return on invested capital, cash return on invested capital, and levered free cash flow margin, they are important and therefore marked with a light color. Next is the balance sheet. And again, this is another crucial element, especially for companies that are either in a growing phase or are simply not performing well at the moment, because I want to use the balance sheet to understand if it is strong enough to cope with the issues or expenditures that the company is having, or whether there's a high risk that they could go into bankruptcy. The spreadsheet again has a lot of different ratios and numbers, but for me the two most important one are how many assets they have versus liabilities, and the debt versus the equity. I've also added the Altman Z-score, which shows the likelihood of a bankruptcy, and also the Piotrowski score that assesses the company's strength in terms of financial based on several different parameters. After that, the next section is the shareholder yield, which again, I want to include that to show whether the stocks are returning value back to investors through either dividend and or share buyback. I usually feel that there is a tendency to only focus on the dividend part, which I think is incorrect because today a lot of companies are focusing again a lot more on buyback of shares. And I've therefore included the total shareholder yield, which combines those two figures. Okay. Next section is the earnings per share, which again is intended to show whether the company is actually earning money, so it's linked to the income statement. But I've included it under here because I want to combine it with what is the future outlook of the companies. So what is the growth going to be? Because if there is an expectation of a significant growth and that the growth is perhaps above the industry average, well, then that shows that the company is expected to perform better, and if it doesn't, it's not already incorporated in the share price, it will in the future, and it could be serving as an indicator for an interesting stock. So again, all these elements described earlier will feed into the next sections, which is about the valuation of the company and whether a stock is overvalued or undervalued. I use a mixture of different valuations like the PEG ratio, my own estimated intrinsic value calculation, which are based on different assessments, the book value per share, the relative strength index below here, but also in the end a little bit on how the analyst recommendations are. Those are not the most important to me, but it again gives somehow indication as to whether the company is over or undervalued. I think it's very important for me to say that if all these things points to a direction that a stock appears to be a good investment, then I will go through in more thorough details to understand if there are any upside or pitfalls that the numbers have not shown to me. So basically doing that extra due diligence. And I think it's very important for me to say that I'm obviously not a professional financial advisor. And all the information that I'm showing here is based on my own calculations and estimates for the future. I therefore highly recommend everyone to go through a similar thoroughly exercise themselves before pressing any purchase button. I can safely say that I know this from my own experience when I was a bit younger, and it can be costly not to do so, so please don't do that. Lastly, as mentioned earlier in the video, this is my first video ever, and I do acknowledge that there can be room for improvement. I therefore encourage everyone to provide feedback and suggestions for improvement in the comment section, as that's the only way I can enhance the content quality. If you do appreciate this first video, I sincerely hope that you will give a thumbs up and subscribe for future videos to support the channel and the small new journey that I have embarked on. As mentioned, I will be diving into the 5 solar stock hopefully in the coming week or so. So until then, stay tuned and have a great day. Thank you.